So we're beginning with this impressionistic watercolour of a Norfolk farm building. Now I've already half finished this one outside. Rain clouds threaten, so I'm going to complete this in the studio. We can already see that we have three large shapes. We have to be careful that those shapes don't clash with each other. They are different size shapes. We also have the triangle on the right hand side, which will be the focal point with the door beneath. So, going to mix up some colour. I'm going to finish this off with some Petersburg. This is White Night, and we're looking in here at some burnt sienna and ultramarine with a touch of permanent rose as well. So I just want to put in the 3 telegraph poles. You can see I'd indicated them with my fingernail. I scratched them in before I left the actual scene. And I'm using a number 6 squirrel mop brush. Holds a lovely point and lots of liquid. Just dragging out and blurring with my fingertip. Let's go into the second one. The great thing about telegraph poles, if you place them in the right place, at the right angles, they can lead the eye to where you want the eye to go. I want it to go with a triangle of the roof. Excuse me. We have the square door. Just practicing the maneuver before I actually put the paint to paper. It needs to be a bit stronger, it's too weak. So I'll go back into my palette and add some ultramarine to the mix. Just the tip of the brush. It's kind of just tickling the paper. It's obviously not too precise, it's just giving an impression. A telegraph pole. We're going to have a bit more thickness to this one. It's closer. It needs to be slightly thicker. Back in again for ultramarine. Going down the end there, this is going to take it darker. That was neutral tint. Neutral tint is fantastic when it's added to mixes. It kind of intensifies that mix. There we go, just in once. Fiddle. Very delicate. Notice I hover over the paper first, sort of practice and move before I commit to the paper. So I'm going to go in through the smaller. This is an Escoda. This is a number 2. This is their tranquil range, versatile rather, not tranquil. A synthetic brush. There's a great point on it. Each one of these brushes is handmade as well. And they're relatively inexpensive. It's better to have a few good quality brushes than lots of brushes that are cheap and cheerful and don't do the job that you want them to do. So back into some neutral tint. We're going in for a green mixture. I'm also going to put together another ultramarine neutral tint. In for the cables. Again, it's important to try and get these cables in quickly. Little breakages in between doesn't matter. So practice above and then flick, and that should do it. Still adding some more detail. To these telegraph poles. Moving back to the number 6 squirrel mop. It's a Renaissance brush. The manufacturer is Pro Art. Yeah, it needs to be darker. A slight edge. It's about getting the right tonal values. This painting has got some nice unifying elements to it. With repetition of these vertical shapes coming in a 3, back into the same mixture, just adding I'm going to try and put in some windows now. These are just put in very loosely. You can see that my hand is quite a way back on the handle of the brush. This guarantees a loose approach, not too detailed, not too fine. And the painting you can see is if this is quick. This is creating a nice edge to the eave, just defining a little bit of detail. There we go. Fingers never hurts. There's some nice bleeding and blending of the roof. When I was outside, it was quite damp outside and taking forever to dry. So the background trees and the water kind of bled into the roofs. So you can see the roof where I am now above, how the water's sort of bled into the roof. And it does so on this right hand building where I am again. Just putting in some windows. That creates a nice, loose, atmospheric feel. You can the clouds and you can see the clouds of the impending storm. In fact, the storm that was impending was Storm Doris, so I had to pack up quickly and get back into the car and move on. Turned out to be one of Britain's most destructive storms. So that was a piece of this dry brush in there. The way you do that is to push hard, then pull really fast and lift off at the same time. This squirrel mop is particularly good for it. Again, the same thing. There we go. Look at lifting up. So down and up. Let's practice. There we go. Just on the edge, down and up again. This dry brush is creating variation. Look at the track that's leading the eye into the painting. I like to try and link passages of paint together. Here we've just added some water to the mix to bring in some suggestions of shadows or in that middle distance. Taking the same mixture that I was laying in the shadows. There's some blues coming in here, there was some cobalt and some ultramarine, and also adding in some permanent rose. We're going to put in a shadow. It's going to be strong. Just to the right hand side there were a bank of winter trees, buds on but leaves certainly not, so we have that skeletal shadow effect. More ultramarine, just going to darken up some of these shadows. It's a kind of general rule that the further away the shadow, in other words towards the back of the painting, the bluer it goes, the cooler, and to the front, warmer. This kind of principle of cool and warm works really well in a painting, creates something called conflict. You'll see conflict all over the painting, in the big shapes and the little shapes. Just gone in with the number 2 there with a Skoda brush. Back to the conflict. We create a kind of tension. I'll use my fingernail there just to bring around some highlights. So I've allowed this to dry, and we're back to it now, and you can see it's dried quite lightly, and with the spray it's kind of bloomed. You get the paint kind of blooms at the front, so we're going to sort that out again. We're going to go back in with this ultramarine, just putting some ultramarine into the permanent rose. We're going to go darker. So I was saying the conflict creates interest. It's kind of like opposing elements. And we're going to put in some darker shadows now. Creates excitement and interest. And it really is a vital and essential part of any design. So these kind of reds, and we have the greens that are in the background trees that are behind the barn and the farm buildings. Obviously the green and the red are on opposite sides of this spectrum, and they're going to create tension straight away. We've got quite a few curved lines in the track that goes round, and they kind of create tension with the straight lines that we have in the telegraph poles. We've got the straight horizontal lines across the barn, again, which create tension with the obliques that we have in the telegraph pole. Just adding some more pigment. Some more ultramarine, trying to darken this up. We also have some tension and conflict with the large and small shapes, especially those large and small shapes that are on the farm buildings. Got some large roofs, it's quite large facing walls and small windows, so those shapes kind of conflict. I'm going to bring in the shadow now, just to bring in some life. Shadows always pull paintings together. Also, we have lots of conflict in this painting with rough and smooth passages. So we saw some dry brush earlier, and then some smooth liquid washes. We've also got the wet into wet trees going into the sky as well. All of those things are kind of opposites. Going back in again for some burnt sienna and ultramarine. You can see I've used quite a limited palette for this painting. I'll be sharing the colours, all the colours I used at the end of this video. Just darkening up again now. A telegraph pole. So you'll see throughout this painting lots of lines, all different directions coming in, different sizes, different shapes. Just putting in some water just to soften off some of the edges. Another element of design that you'll see in this painting is the values. Now the values are we mean tonal values. By that we mean the lightest light and the darkest dark, and all of those values in between. You can see the eye is going to go towards the triangular shaped barn on the right. We need to get that darker as well. Soon I'm going to put in some highlights with a small Skoda No. 2 brush, just straight out of the tube. White, Chinese white this time. Sometimes I use gouache, sometimes Chinese white. Another element that we have in this painting and in all paintings is the colour. And the different hues that we have, really important. Always trying to look for adjacent colours on the colour wheel, as we said earlier, the reds and the greens. So here we go. So this is the smaller Skoda brush, just going to touch in some light on the telegraph poles, on the roofs there, on the edges, and probably on the eaves. There we go, under the eave. It's so easy to overdo bringing in the highlights. The key is to just put them in at various places and not everywhere. It's not painting by numbers or trying to outline every single line that we've created. One of the things to do, you may know this if you look at these kinds of videos and DVDs and go to art classes, is to squint your eyes. The squinting helps to reduce all the midtones and breaks things down to the darkest darks and the lightest lights, and you can see then where the impact is, and this is where the greatest impact is going to be, just here on this farm building door. I love the way this white paint will bleed in to any soft paint that we have already put down the edges. I use the fingers. Always great to use fingers to blur things if it's looking too pristine. Just going to bring in the touch of the cable coming through. Notice I go over the top without actually touching the paper. Kind of practice before committing to get a feel of the shape. There we go, blending with my finger into the shadow in the foreground. All of this is just leading the eye in to where you want the focal point to be, but the focal point has to be the darkest dark, the lightest light. I know we have light all over the painting, but by placing the very darkest dark, and here we've got a sizable door opening, that will take the eye there, and we now just need to pop in a few seagulls and birds. The part of Norfolk that I live in, there seems to forever be seagulls and crows in the sky. Notice that I'm now holding the brush much closer to the tip to get more control. And then I'm going to put a few more birds in the sky, probably in a neutral tint mixture. There we go, the neutral tint at the end. Could be seagulls catching the light, possibly crows, doesn't really matter, but from a design point of view, these darker shapes, these V's, are now adding interest, adding life, adding conflict, because there's another shape, sort of two curves together, and we have the counterchange aspect, counterchange being the difference between the light and the dark. So you can see these darker birds going into the lighter sky, whereas my earlier birds, the seagulls, were painted in white against the darkest trees. So we're getting close to the finishing of this painting, the finishing off, indoors in the studio. The only trouble with the studio is, compared to outside and painting outside, is the time that you have. I'm now just going to squirt in a few sprays there, just drop a few down, you'll see some changes. There we go, especially in the shadows at the front. It's kind of like some textural stuff going in, which is all part of your design, having texture. There you go. Yeah, I was saying that the studio, we go to the critique now, we're getting finished, but the studio, you just got lots of time, and if you have lots of time you can fiddle. So outdoors you tend not to fiddle because you're racing against the light. So I'll not critique then. Excuse me. Let's just go through with the brush and see. So we were looking at these verticals coming in a 3, so it's a nice pattern. and we have them echoed and repeated there, but much smaller in the windows. And that's a good principle of our design, is this repetition. We've also got the large shapes, and we've got the wet into wet trees. So we've got sharp edges, but we've also got wet into wet. And we've got wet into wet again there. You can see where the paint has bled them into each other. And the lines take your eyes in. We've got obviously lines in the telegraph poles, and we've got the trees around the outside, and the lines again coming in to lead the eye in. So we have curved lines to lead in on the pathway, and the straight lines of the telegraph poles, the cables, to take the eye into where we want it to go. I'm just going to take out this sharp edge. It's just water on the end of my finger, just trying to blur it there. Another little fingernail. We're just about done, so I enjoyed that one. And all that remains is the unveiling. This is when all that hard work's finished. We can take the tape off. I use a 36mm rhino tape. Any sort of decorator's masking tape is fine, as long as it doesn't rip the paper. So we're going to take and we get that nice mounted edge. It shows the painting off much better, I feel. And we're kind of just about done. And now things are dried off, you can see. So the only thing to say is thank you very much, and please subscribe, and for more info, go to my website.